In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Another We Are So Back Wednesday for another BG-Cast Wednesday Live podcast. Before we get to my guest and we break down the topic tonight, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have checked me out in the past before and you like what you saw or you liked what you heard. All right, everybody, I want to give a big shout out to all of my new subscribers on Rumble and YouTube. Thank you all so much for joining the BG-Cast family. I really appreciate it. And, I'm glad we can have more people to sit down with and learn together, because that's what BG-Cast is about, man. Even though I woke up back in 2008, I've been at this for going on 17 years now. I still don't have all of this figured out. And I would never lie to any of you and tell you I have all of this figured out. And that's what this show is about, because we're trying to figure this out, A couple of things, guys. If you do want to donate to the show, head on over to my X page. It is not a requirement. It is just if you would like to head over to my X page. It's in my highlights. Again, I work a 9 to 5. I am all self-funded. I do all of this myself, minus my intro. That was from Urban. He's been on the show before. So if you feel inclined to help support me, I would really appreciate that, guys. Thanks a bunch. And also, for those of you in the Denver, Colorado area, it is coming up. My Liberty on the Rocks talk, The Path to Victory. I will be speaking live. This will be my first attempt at a TED Talk at Liberty on the Rocks. If you guys don't know, it's a really cool group of people. They get together once a week. They do it at the building downtown. I believe it's the Conservative Building. And we all just get together and we chat. We, like-minded people, we discuss ideas. We discuss how we can bring ourselves together to kind of overcome this collective scenario that we're all facing at this point in time. So, yeah, if you are in the Denver area and you want to come meet me and get to know me and you want to hear me talk, then absolutely that information is pinned to the top of every social media profile that I have. But nonetheless, man, let's get down to this topic and my guest. So, guys, are we in a controlled awakening? This is something that has been surfacing in our community now for a little bit. I actually first heard this theory when I was on the Reality Stars podcast back in 2024. They brought up the concept that if we all woke up too quickly, it would cause chaos and the Elohim would have to reset the planet. That is the first mention of this theory that kind of surfaced to me back then. And then throughout the past year, I've heard it surface multiple times. We have a lot of different variations of this theory. A lot of people think the white hats are controlling this awakening to kind of shift it or do it in a way that doesn't cause a mass amount of collective trauma. Although you know how I feel about putting stock in faith and external saviors. I am not big on that. And I don't know, man. I'm half and half. But nonetheless, guys, he's been on the show before. He's a friend of mine. He is a spiritual warrior. I have left in both the Rumble and the YouTube description his X account, his link tree, his game that he's created too. Has also been in my description for a while as well. So he's a software engineer. If you guys want to check out his game and help support him, definitely. But nonetheless, let's bring back David the Lion. What is up, man? How's it going?
Good evening.
Dude, it is good to have you. Yeah, it's good to have you back on, man. It's been too long. And, we got together on the panel on Saturday that Transcending Ascension was hosting. And
that was good. I'm looking forward to doing those.
Yeah, no, it was cool, man. It was a breath of fresh air. It was a breath of fresh air. But we had one of the people in the panel bring up this very thing, that we are in a controlled awakening right now. That this awakening is being controlled. It is being drip fed to us. To, I guess you could say, number one, blunt collective trauma. Number two, I think there's a, I've spoken with a lot of people about this, and I'm going to get your thoughts after I say this. Yeah, you guys have heard me talk about the Invisible College on here, the secret order. And I don't know if the white hats are affiliated with that order or not, but I know that there are people, from what I've heard in this order, that they want to help liberate us from what is currently happening right now, but they want to keep American traditions intact while they're doing it. So, Dave, I know we've talked about this, man, but let's get your thoughts on this theory before we kind of dive in and we find out if this could really be the case.
Well, it's interesting because there's a few things you said that kind of turned some wheels for me. So first of all, you mentioned the Invisible College. Is this different from the Cabal or the Deep State, or similar, or is there overlap?
So the Invisible College, what I call that, I mean, you could say that the Cabal and the Deep State are their underlings, and kind of what I call the Invisible College is the collective of secret societies and intelligence agencies.
Okay.
That work together globally to manufacture our reality and control our reality.
Okay. Interesting. Well, and then, so, yeah, and obviously that exists. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, for terminology, I understood exactly what you meant by that.
No, absolutely, man. No worries.
And then, you mentioned, can we have a full-on awakening without, or the Elohim would have to come in and reset the planet? So, it's interesting because I can remember distinctly at least 2 times, maybe even 3, that we actually did do that. Like, we actually did awaken and start the new earth. And it was glorious, but something wasn't quite right. So we decided to reset it and turn the time back a little bit to before we flipped, and then everybody forgot. And yes, that happened. That happened in September of 2022, and it happened in July of 2024, and maybe some other times. And I was not the only person to ever think of that. Other people suggested that to me, that had happened on other occasions, and then I experienced it myself. In July being the most, I mean, there was a lot going on then. We were on the brink of World War III. You remember Russian ships had surrounded our coast.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to forget those times now. So much has happened since then. But
it's strange.
But yeah, there was so many battles in the astral plane that night. There was a big battle for the soul of this world that night, and I was involved in it. And yeah, I mentioned this to you before, I think on my previous show, but I had an experience where I traveled through several different dimensions, and it was like a span of billions of years all at once. And then there was a battle in the 9th dimension, and then I was back here. And yeah, that was crazy.
I can imagine, man. I can imagine. And dude, it's very interesting because, when we talk about collective amnesia, you brought up a very interesting point there because, that even kind of ties into, another rabbit hole I've been kind of going under. And I mean, when it comes to our history, and this timeline that we're currently on, it's very interesting to me that, you know, this is something that we continuously undergo, and it's like, it's strange because, you know, we agree to do this, you know, on this higher level, you know, and we've
Yeah.
definitely put both feet in when it comes to doing this. But I think, you know, not only are we potentially dealing with it here in the present today, that we've potentially dealt with it in the past multiple times as well.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
It's
so you know, first of all, you know, we have no offense to any of our amazing awakened friends. Okay, we are all where we are, and but I love it when people say, you know, when I leave the earth, I'm never coming back. I'm done here. This place is terrible. Because I mean, I don't know. We'll see. From what I've seen, and this is not all experience. Some of this is secondhand experience. Okay, but you know, when we get to the other side of this journey, we will look back and say, "Oh wow, it was worth it. It was worth it." I
yeah.
know we will. I know we will because I've already been through so much shit, and I've been at the point where I look back and I'm like, "Well, what's the alternative? What if I hadn't gone through all that shit? I wouldn't be where I am now." So yeah, I guess I would do it again. Maybe I would try to find a better way, but you know, I don't necessarily want to relive my bad experiences on Earth, but they made me who I am.
I completely understand, man. And that's one thing too, that, you know, a lot of us on our spiritual evolution, a lot of us who are embarking on this path that we're on, we've had some very interesting lives. We've had some very interesting things happen to us. We've had potentially some of the darkness. Even Gray, give me one sec, man. All right, let me get done with this, and then I will bring up your question. All right, and then but this is what kind of forges us, man. This is what kind of conditions us. And, you know, a lot of us, you know, if we didn't experience a lot of these struggles, if we didn't get shoved into some of the darkest places that this existence had to offer, you know, I've caught in shit for saying it before. But you know, like darkness and light do kind of go hand in hand, man. You can't really have one without the other. And I mean, you've seen me say this stuff on X before too, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying that darkness is required, you know, to cultivate that awakening in somebody. I've known people that have awakened not from darkness, just out of pure curiosity,
Mhm.
you know, pure research and things like that. So like, but most of the people in our community, like we've gone through some really dark things, man. Like, you know, we've seen some of the darkest corners of this reality. And, you know, that's what's pushed us towards this light. We saw the deepest depths of the darkest things. And, you know, after we experienced that, we looked towards the light. We knew that there was a better option, there was a better solution. So real quick, Even Gray has a question.
Mhm.
Can you guys elaborate when Russia surrounded the U.S. coast and how that indicates the reset of a mass awakening, unless I misheard what he said?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did say those things, but I maybe didn't didn't tie them together well enough. Like, you know, like the Russians surrounding our coast don't indicate a massive awakening. What happened at the time was this was like right around July 1st. Um, I think it was the weekend before that. Russia had surrounded our coast. A person claiming to represent the Earth Alliance White Hats contacted me and asked me to contact the Galactic Federation to request assistance, which I did. And now it's possible that this person was scamming me, okay? And we've talked about this, but there were a lot of weird things about this entire incident that leads me to believe that there was something to it, even if they were acting nefariously also. So I was told that because of our efforts, my effort, to contact the Galactic Federation, get the message through that they sent their ships through and they deactivated a bunch of nuclear weapons. That's what I was told, and basically averted war at that time. Now, what that has to do with a reset is at that same time, I experienced a vision where I was basically taken to several alternate timelines of Earth, and one of them was absolutely like the ascension timeline. Like Earth was ascending right then; it was happening, and unfortunately, though, what we found was that some of the quote unquote light forces had also gone dark. Like they were not on our side, and we had to fight them as well. And that culminated with a great battle in the ninth dimension against a fallen Arcturian. And after we defeated him, it's like that whole timeline started to unwind, if you will. And then I was back here, and for about the next week or so, I experienced a lot of like time anomalies, Mandela effects, things like that. And plus, in general, I had a really bad case of what they call divine psychosis. So I was like, yeah, I was not in a good mental state after coming through that. It was kind of like PTSD.
I can imagine, man. Like that to me too. And I mean, the one thing I can say about July 2 of 2024, that was a very interesting month. I was going through some stuff that month myself as well. Like I remember I started getting out of nowhere. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just wake up with this very intense anxiety. And like I couldn't explain why. Like, and this actually persisted all the way up until August, like around like August. But I remember the whole month of July, I would get up and it would be at such weird times. Like I'd wake up at like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, man, and just a fit of anxiety, like sweating. And I would have to, kind of pace the halls, like be like, what the hell's going on? What's wrong with me? And like, to me, at least in my eyes, there was definitely some kind of disturbance going on. Like, cause when the energies get intense, especially the collective energies, like I feel them, being a Taurus and being, the empathic person that I am, when this stuff starts to get like heavy, like I remember when, during the whole election time too, man, like I was slammed. I was completely slammed. Like I felt just like exhausted. And then like all of a sudden, then, when Trump got elected, like I woke up the next day and I felt absolutely fantastic. It's very strange on how like, and my opinion and my stance on Trump. Like I'm not a go hard, die hard Trump fan, but like it was very interesting to me to kind of notice this. So like definitely with you, man. But one thing nonetheless, man, let's dive into this. So one of the first questions we got here is, would there be collective trauma if everything was to be allowed to hang out to dry completely, everything came out in the open, all of the stuff that we know, like, and we've researched and the things that we've found. And dude, really cool. Cause even just said, I definitely recall back in July, a lot of very odd, weird things happening in my life and my consciousness. I'd say half that month, it felt like I was walking through a thick fog. So this is something that, yeah.
A lot of people talked about how strange July was.
Oh, dude, it was interesting, man. And then we have Angel Wings. Hello, thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. But yeah, man, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Is there going to be collective trauma? So what I have right here, I have some statistics, and we're going to start with like the best statistics, and we're going to kind of work our way down because this is actually very interesting, when we kind of look at this. So one of the premises that we have is this: we know that there is a divine underlying nature to this reality. People like you and I have come to understand this. You know, we embrace the spiritual. We've made it into a way of life, a way of being. But this is something, you know, that if we were to let it all hang out, this would become common knowledge. You know, there is a divine nature to this reality, a divine nature to this creation. So the good news about this one, this one I don't think would dent our collective too hard, my friend. So we have, what percentage of Americans believe in a higher power? So really cool that 90% of Americans, 90%, which is, that's a good number, man, right there. They believe in a higher power. You know, and what's really cool, the vast majority of Americans report believing in a higher power or God. Interpretation varies. While most believe in a higher power, not all interpret this as the God described in the Bible. And this was kind of, and what's even cool about this too, is we have about 9 in 10 down here from the Pew Research Center. U.S. adults believe in God or another higher power, including 54% who believe in God as described in the Bible, which could be a good or a bad thing. We don't exactly know yet. But 34% who say they don't believe in the biblical depiction of a God, but do believe there is some other higher power or spiritual force in the universe. So this is a best case scenario, at least when it comes to this one. I mean, what are your thoughts, man? I think this is kind of this is good. At least, you know, we at least know that 90% of our country has some kind of spiritual belief.
Yeah, and I mean, I think overall that's good. I'm often amazed, though, at people's response when I talk about the true nature of God. Like, I'm like, oh, you know, God, yeah, he's the coolest guy ever. He's not up there in a cloud, like, waiting to zap you if you do something bad. He's your best friend. He's going through everything with you. And for some reason, some people don't like that at all. So, you know,
I can't get why, man. And like, I'm with you on that, you know. And like, one of the things I've noticed, at least when it comes to the common collective, we'll call them, or the consensual collective, is, you know, even if they have some kind of spiritual belief, they're more often than not very silent about it, and they play it off. Because, you know, we look at the Western civilization and how secular it is. And I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day, you know, because they were talking about how a lot of people in the West, they've kind of started to dabble in black magic. Like, you know, they were looking at these black magic questions on Quora and, you know, on Reddit, and like all of these people like really getting into black magic. And like, you know, of course, I'm like, my higher self said an absolute fuck no when it came down to going down that path. And like, but like, you know, we were talking about how you don't see that in a lot of Eastern cultures, because even though like Eastern cultures, you know, if we're talking like, you know, India, we're talking like Tibet, things like that, you know, they, even if the people in the society are not devout followers of the spirituality, they still have that spiritual foundation you know, built into their way of life. They still have their you know, that foundation that's kind of almost built into their morals. So, but that's the thing about the West is, you know, we have a lot of people who they believe in energy and they believe in frequency, but still kind of, you know, scoff at a higher power. And what that maybe opens them up to asking those kinds of things, or maybe trying to dive into black magic. We have Kyle Shyrock, he goes, positivity is the best thing to come from American individualism. I'm not debating you on that there for sure, man. We have Angel Wings. The constant manipulation of the God concept creates confusion and division. So most never awaken to their own connections to their higher selves to free their minds of control. I completely agree with you, Angel Wings, on that. And then we got Tim Fowler. Thanks for being here tonight, man. We are all part of God. I love seeing these responses.
Absolutely.
Man. I feel you though, man. When you try to bring it up to the common person, it's almost like it gets shunned down. I don't know. Why do you think that is?
Well, yeah. So this goes into like the thousands of years of slave programming we've all been subjected to generation after generation. Some of us are just resistant to that, but most people are taught to worship a God outside of themselves. Not that I am God. Like, no, see, our concept of God is so different. We're not saying, oh, I'm God, worship me. We're saying, oh, I have God's spark within me.
Exactly.
And I can worship God. I have a direct connection to God already. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I see. Wait, did I finish answering your question?
No, you're all good. Keep going, man. Keep going.
Okay. I see, like, when it comes to spiritual belief in God, I feel like I see two different takes on it. One is, God is the God of the Old Testament who killed 185,000 conscripted Assyrian soldiers because their king told them to attack Israel, or who sent bears to eat children that called the prophet Elijah bald. I mean, God did that. Or the other version of that is, there's not a personal God. There's the source of all that is. There's the energy that fills the universe. And it's like there's a lot of people that are in one camp or the other. And then you got me. I'm like, no, it's both. They're both. I mean, not necessarily the one that sent the bears, but there is a being called God with a consciousness, and there is the source of all that is, and yeah, that is perhaps larger than what we would call the conscious aspect of God. But again, God is indescribable, the all that is. We can't describe it, which means whatever we think God is much more than that, and always will be. That's my take on it.
100%, man. I completely agree with you. I think really where that kind of comes into play on that one end of the spectrum, we have fundamentalism. And, to me, fundamentalism is a plague on our minds. And I'm just being 100% honest. I know that's going to probably ruffle some feathers, but that's just my opinion because we're in a new age now. Okay. We are no longer in the old age. We are in a new age. All right. And, we were in the age of Aquarius. We were in the age of Pisces, and that was really the time for fundamentalism. But, with this new age and this new frequency that we're entering, we have not only opened and accessed many different new ways that we can establish this connection and have this perspective and this relationship with the divine spark within us. And I think, hold on, we got Tim Fowler. He said, fear is by man. Completely agreed. Man keeps us God-fearing for control. You hold yourself accountable. Absolutely, Tim. Absolutely, man. You are on the same page, my friend. But nonetheless, I think a lot of that comes into fundamentalism, man, because when you look at, yes, let's even take the consensual narrative here. We know that a lot of people say America was built on Judeo-Christian values, even though we know that's not the case. But we that's what a lot of people think and a lot of people say. And, I think that little bit of fundamentalism could potentially be hardwired into us, on almost a subconscious level.
Well, and I feel like this fundamentalism is really, I think a lot of it is actually a product of the 20th century because when I go back and read the writings of Godfrey Ray King and Samael Aun Weor and people who were writing in the early 20th century, people who were writing, the Kabbalion, other books that were written around the turn of the century, things from the 1800s. It seems like in general, people were a lot more cool with spiritual, esoteric concepts, whether they considered themselves Christians or not. And it's almost like at some point, somewhere around that time, fundamentalism started to become a real thing and like say no, you can't be mystical, and it has to be just so. And it's kind of funny that happened at around the same time as Operation Paperclip and
Then,
MK Ultra. I'm sure that's not a coincidence, right?
no coincidence there, man. I think you're definitely onto something. And it's and the also the other thing too, talking about the other side of the spectrum before we hop into our next little statistic. You have people that the personal, they believe that, God is the source of everything that is, but as far as the personal aspect of it, I think really what that is a fear of accountability. And it's a fear of accountability, because when you look at and you find out that you are this divine spark, you are this fractal of the divine, everything that was, is, or ever will be, it almost kind of it changes your perspective on not only just yourself but this experience that you're having altogether, and what that can do to somebody, especially if this person exactly has not been a good person in their life in certain ways and hasn't taken accountability for it. That can be that's almost a fear thing that I think kind of like comes over somebody, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, like it's within me, like this divine is within me and I've been being this way. So I think really where we're looking at, man, is as our collective awakens more and heals more, maybe they will start gravitating towards that understanding. And just like you said, man, like we were talking about on Saturday, like when we look to the answers, and we're always looking for these answers for these, esoteric concepts and a lot of these spiritual topics, very rarely do the answers sway in either extreme of the polarity.
Right.
Very, I've honestly never seen an answer sway in any extreme of the polarity just yet when it comes to this kind of stuff. And it always, ends up somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually the answer is it's complicated. Yeah.
100%. It is complicated, and and that's why the personal aspect of the experience is the most important, in a lot of ways, at least in my eyes, because that's where you cultivate your understanding and your perspective, and it's beautiful that way. It is like you get to experience it raw from your own perspective, your own perception, and you get to make of it what you will. And that's definitely the beauty in it, man. All right, the next one. Which one do I have next year? So we have, what percentage of Americans believe in extraterrestrials? Okay, because we know that this is a thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
we know other entities exist. Like, we've experienced other entities, but for it to become a very widespread thing, it looks like our government is attempting to push us there, regardless of what their narrative is behind it or not. But nonetheless, let's look at this statistic. This one's a little bit interesting. I'm still not 100% sure our greater collective might be able to handle this one exactly, because we have, according to recent polls, around 34% of Americans believe that UFOs are likely alien spacecraft, indicating a significant portion of the population believes in extraterrestrial life. This number has been steady rising in recent years. And then we have another one here by Ipsos. We have, ahead of the congressional hearing on UFOs this week, 1 in 10 Americans report that they have seen an unidentified flying object unchanged over time. 4 times as many Americans believe in UFOs. So we're still looking around like 34% to the 42% margin. So at least in this case, this one might be a little interesting.
Well,
If the lid got blown off. Yeah, what were you saying?
well, this one's interesting, because it's such a complex topic. Because what do you even mean when you say extraterrestrial? Because I bet if you went to most of those people and said, do you believe that the angels and the demons in the Bible are real? It would probably be higher. Maybe it would be about that same number. It would probably be a different segment, though. And here's the reality. Those are extraterrestrials. Like, no matter how you shake it, even if you don't believe in aliens, if you believe in angels, they are beings that are not from here. So by definition, that makes them extraterrestrials. So
we have a better statistic for that. I'm gonna bring that
oh,
up real
okay,
quick.
okay.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man, on that. So as far as angels, we have a whopping 69% of
Okay.
Americans, yep, believe in angels, meaning nearly 7 in 10 adults report believing in their existence. So
Okay.
you're absolutely right, man. It is. When we have a real quick Angel Wings. Thanks you guys for being so awesome in the chat tonight. I really appreciate that. Um, Perspective really is everything. Simply unlocking your ability to see things from multiple perspectives literally unlocks your consciousness to understand even more and see everything completely different. Absolutely, Angel Wings. I agree with you on that. We have Mr. Andrew of Heavyweights Life Feels Wood. And we have would someone born on a space station be considered an ET?
I vote
So
yes.
yeah, so but your point's exact, man. Because even as much as I don't like this show anymore, I'm gonna bring it up. I feel it's been tainted. I think when it first came out, it was pretty good, but Ancient Aliens. I mean, you look
Oh,
at a
yeah.
lot of the I guess you could say a lot of the historical depictions of people describing these encounters with entities or beings that were not from this plane of existence or
Well,
even maybe potentially this planet.
are you familiar
And
with Dr. Paul Wallace?
Dr. Paul, that name rings a bell.
Okay, he's been on Michael Salla, a few others, a few times. Maybe he's even been on Ancient Aliens. I don't know, but he wrote a book. He wrote several books, but it's like something of the gods, or something of Eden. I forget. It's like he did a series of books, and they're all something of Eden. And I saw his interview on Michael Salla, and he talks about how the Old Testament is really a record of humans interacting with extraterrestrial beings, and he makes a really good case. And he used to be like a mainstream biblical scholar, and then he started, comparing the older texts and other things. He started coming to this. You should have him on your show sometime. Seriously.
I was just looking at his website. He calls it the Eden Conspiracy.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. And I first saw his interview maybe 2 years ago. And that really opened up my eyes and helped me to see things. Well, and plus, I actually I have received like past life memories of like things from the Bible. like if that, like if there's a certain story where an angel came and did a certain thing, like not in all cases, just a few. I actually like received the memory of when I did that. So I'll just give you. No, I won't. I won't talk about it anymore. But
No, you're all good, man. We got a couple comments. So we got Kyle. Just let me talk with Kyle.
yeah.
In the vastness of space, extraterrestrial life certainly exists, but unfortunately, they probably don't possess the technology to get here. Kyle, let me just explain something to you, man. I've sent you the articles on panpsychism. There's definitely technologies that do indeed exist that are not brought to the public eye that we currently do have. Again, I've had multiple sources come forward and definitely explain this to me. And I mean, you can even see it in quantum physics with acoustic levitation. There's even quantum entanglement. The thing is, Kyle, that in the common sense of it all, like if we're talking about the technology that is available in the civilian sector that we see and that we work with every day, you would be right. But we're talking about things that have access to higher technology than us.
Oh yeah.
And light speed is not the fastest speed. There's other ways. And I mean, there's even physicists now. I mean, the best thing I would encourage you to do, Kyle, is open up any quantum physics scientific journal and start reading. And that is the best thing I can tell you to do right now, especially on my show. I've brought up many different instances of this too. I get your point, man. But thank you for commenting. I appreciate it. Eben, we have Ancient Aliens actually has a lot of facts. They just these characters so people don't take it seriously. I'm 100% with you on that, man. Or they just use these characters. I see that. I'm 100% with you, man. You know, there's some credible people on there, like there definitely is, but nonetheless, and I completely agree with you. There are good facts. There's very good, interesting information you could take from that. It is a shame though they had to pick Giorgio Soulakis with the crazy hair to be. We all see the meme, aliens, just
Oh, yeah.
aliens. Everything's and then you got the South Park where the aliens created Thanksgiving. They came down, they came down and then they created Thanksgiving. But nonetheless, and then
they tell us the truth in our movies.
they tell us the truth, dude. If the aliens created Thanksgiving, I would be completely okay with that. That would be a cool batch of history. Like, I'd be like, all right, cool. Like, they invented the turkey.
I mean, if you ever want to get into like alien history, like it is kind of interesting. Just some of the things, like supposedly in the 1500s, that was when the Galactic Federation and the Orions, or whoever the other side is, signed some kind of a treaty that said, that we're not going to directly intervene on Earth anymore. We'll only interact. That's why that was the point where like they stopped, coming down on the clouds to talk to the guy in the field, and instead only worked with secret societies from that point on.
Very interesting. No, I would agree with that, man. And it's very strange though, because what is that great battle that happened in Germany? They have the painting. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's pull it up real quick, because great battle in the sky painting. Yeah, in the sky painting. Yeah, because this is something that's brought up quite a bit. Boom, I got it right here.
Well, it was oddly reminiscent of what was going on over in New Jersey not that long ago.
It was very oddly reminiscent. So like, I mean, this is I got the painting right here. Let me bring it up real quick. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. Even when you look at this, right? Like this is a portion of the painting, the great battle in the sky. And, this individual, portrayed these different, different objects, or like we see, like we even see like the standard cigar shape UFOs that a lot of people talk about. We see these interesting orbs. We see like these crucifix almost shaped
Star Destroyer.
Yeah, something like that, man. And I'm telling you, dude. And like, so like, when it comes to that, like, yes, there's most certainly very strange thing that even ties into what we were saying though, because a lot of people back in the I think it was like the late 1500s when this actually happened. They thought that it was angels in the sky. They thought there was angels were having a war of some kind. And
yeah, and even in like I said, I've been reading a lot of books from like the secret societies, mystery schools from turn of the century, early 20th century. And, they talk about Venus all the time, not like it's some dead world. Like there's people there that they can go talk to anytime they want to. And it's not like, it's not all that conspiratorial even. It's like, oh yeah, the guys over at Venus, just go into your astral body and communicate with them. It's no problem. So, and that's, I would like to come back real quick to Kyle's comment, because that's another thing people don't think about, because we're so attached to like 21st century technology that we think that this is all there is. This is the pinnacle of what there is. But actually the most advanced technology on Earth is right here, the human body. And most beings in the universe, when they want to travel through time or they want to travel across the universe, they don't get in a spaceship. They send their consciousness. And
exactly,
that's how time travel is usually achieved as well. And I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen any other way, but most people who want to travel from here to another world will astral travel. And
100%.
there's all kinds of books written on how to do that, right? I'm not saying I'm the master. I'm definitely not. But I know of people who do it this way.
Well, what we have, man, even like, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate Kyle being here. I'm glad he's watching the show. And, what even in your defense, even what you're saying, David, is, we look at panpsychism, and like, I know a lot of my viewers and things like that have heard me talk about it ad nauseum. So let me just bring it up one more time for the occasion. But, that's a new prevailing theory in quantum physics that is basically showcasing that our consciousness is not only the prime fundamental of this existence, like, we have to exist in order for the universe to exist. And that's why it's one of the most hated theories in quantum physics at this point in time, is because, number one, it makes it destroys the typical narrative of our existence being coincidence, by chance, all of that. If panpsychism is really what's going on, our existence is necessary. We have to be here in order for the universe to exist and the universe to experience itself. And then again, I brought up on another show too in Scientific American, there was another article, does consciousness even pervade the universe? Which the fact that physicists are now looking at these questions and they're taking these theories with the utmost seriousness, really showcases to me that we are definitely on the brink of this bigger understanding, this collective understanding, at least at some point, maybe within our lifetimes even, that, consciousness is going to be the prime fundamental of existence. And that backs up what you're saying as well, because if we're dealing with consciousness, we're dealing with frequency, we're dealing with different channels, we're dealing with, like we've all talked about before, our frequencies of consciousness are like a TV set. We're on channel 3. We'll say that. And because of the third density, we're on channel 3. But if you go up to channel 4, and you flip the channel, you're going to see a lot of different things that aren't on channel 3. You're going to be experiencing things that aren't. And then if you go up to channel 5, you're going to be experiencing even more things. And there are occasions, whether we do this through meditation, whether we do this through entheogens and psychedelics, there's many different ways to achieve this. Sometimes the channels have a crossover. You know what I mean? You'll have a crossover. I still can't remember this one time. This was an entheogen experience me and my buddy had. This was way back in 2021. We took some really clean LSD and we were outside in this park behind my house, and we're looking at the sky, and I kid you not, dude, we see ships fighting in the sky, right above our stratosphere. And we could see the explosions. We could see freaking we saw them using what I would even say light years of space to flank each other and freaking come up from behind and shoot these other it was the wildest thing ever. Yes, I was on LSD, but we know that psychedelics now, with all of the research that is available, you can literally just Google it. I don't even have to provide sources at this point. That these psychedelics tune you into higher frequencies of consciousness. You are perceiving more of reality when you are ingesting a psychedelic. So as far as sources go, you can just Google it, dude. That's kind of I don't have to provide those at this point. They are widely available. If they're interested, they can find it. But again, like we were saying, they can have that crossover. So absolutely, man, in your defense and what you're saying, you are definitely onto something, my friend, for sure. I definitely, and I've even had my own experiences myself. We have Angel Wings chiming in. Your alien encounters actually originated from within your own vessels. Chakra system is a system of dimensional portals. Totally agree. Within your energy, etherical form that connects to your physical body. That's how. And she wanted to let us know she had been on a cigar ship. That's their transport ship. Thank you so much, Angel Wings, for being a part of this tonight. All right, next one. We got extraterrestrials and angels out of the way. Now we have the next one. And I have actually a website. We're talking about trust in the government at this point. We're going to lead into conspiracies, because this is where it kind of comes into play, because if everything were to be hung out to dry in its entirety, we would see that a lot of these things that are called conspiracy theories are most certainly true. But let's start off with the trust in government. We have the public trust in government from 1958 to 2024. And so it's actually very interesting on how it's changed. You look at the graph. This was the trust in government during 1958. And then now we're, we have like a mere 22% of the people in this country that actually trust the government. So we know that indeed is a very interesting one. So that kind of leads into the headway, man. Like, now that we know, if we have 22%, we're looking at 78% of Americans do not trust the government. I mean, I think this could potentially cause some open minds when it comes to this. I mean, what do you think, man?
I mean, I think this is definitely an area where we have potential to make the most headway. I mean, the United States government assassinated its own president and covered it up and got away with it for half a century. So, yeah, that's a pretty big fucking deal. Pardon my French.
That's a very big deal.
But and I think a lot of people maybe haven't thought it through, the implications of what all that really means. I mean, if our government really killed our elected leader, covered it up, got away with it for 50 years, then there's no way what's going on is legitimate. No way. No way any of it is legitimate. And, I mean, in my opinion, it's all going to come down. That's the only way it's ever going to be fixed. So I don't know what that means. Like, I don't want to see chaos. I don't want to see, people going through even harder times. I'm convinced that there is a path that this all gets fixed that is the least amount of pain. And I know that is the timeline that that's the divine timeline, and that's the timeline I hope we see, but I don't know.
I'm with you, man. I'm kind of like cheesing up at this graph a little bit, because you just see like this steady. It's like,
well, yeah, pretty much right after Kennedy, right? And it's interesting though, because we still definitely have a lot of work to do, because 100%. You look at, there's a lot of people who are really confused about Ukraine. Because, especially if you're a Republican, you're supposed to support the military industrial complex, right? So all my conservative friends, well, not all of them, I would say it's about split down the middle. They're like disappointed that Trump was so hard on Zelensky and that he's forcing him to make peace and stuff. I'm like, why? Don't you want the war to end? War is bad. And to my friends on the left, which amazingly I have some now. So yeah, side note, this is crazy, but I'm in Florida now, and I found a church that we absolutely love. It is it's a unity church, and they do, the people that run it, they do definitely skew very hard left, which is kind of weird, but their spiritual teachings are spot on. So we've been giving it a chance, and we love it. But sorry for, but to them, I would say the same thing, because they're also upset with Trump, and I'm like, seriously, you talk about peace every Sunday, and here we are averting global nuclear war. There's got to be something there to love about that.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. Well, that's the thing too, is it's like, I think personally in my eyes, and this is what I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not a huge predictor. I don't like making predictions because, everything normally is in flux. I like to have non-attachment to things. But based on how this is all starting out at this point, I guarantee you by 2028, we're going to be looking at an even lower percentage than what we're looking on this graph at this point in time. And we're going to potentially have a lot more anarchists running around and people who are kind of fed up with the two-party system. Of course, we're going to, Kyle and Cody are what you would consider on the left. They're great people. They're awesome people. And real quick, we have Eben Gray. All the conservative Republicans I come across actually don't want the war in Ukraine to go on. It's actually the left Democrats that want the war to continue. That's a whole other different. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Eben. There's a lot of, that's what in my Common Ground show I brought that up. A lot of these things that the media tries to pin and use on the division scale when it comes to the left and the right, they're not black and white. They're not, and the media will push it out as if it's this black and white scenario. It's either this or it's not, right? But based on my conversation that I had with somebody on the left and then somebody on the right, I had them sit in the same room. Dude, it just came out like out of the woodwork instantly. Like a lot of these issues that are presented to us are presented in a way that they are extremes and illusions. They are never actually factual reality and what's going on. So this is the trap that people keep falling for. They have to understand that none of these issues, absolutely none of them, are black and white, cut and dry. There are so many things and so many intricate facets to these issues that are never highlighted in the mainstream media. They're never highlighted. Even in online media, it's all about that. So that's the biggest thing. So, definitely Angel Wings. We have Kyle. I really don't think Trump's foreign policy will end the war in Ukraine. I hope I'm wrong. We shall see, man. And then we have Angel Wing.
No offense.
Yeah. Freaking. But government slave system is a circus ran by clowns, not even the ones in charge. LOL. Hidden beings in charge or think they're in charge. I'm with the Angel Wings. And then Tim, we got Tim back again. Thank you for being here tonight, man. It's cool to see you. It's definitely a moving playing out. Last night was a major eye opener. Absolutely, man. I think we can both agree on that as well, dude. Like, it is, man. It's not black and white. All right, we got this one for conspiracies now. So now we're kind of stair-stepping our way into this. So, because I'm just gonna say this: I refuse to believe the people in my country are that incapable of being able to handle the truth. Like, that's something I refuse to believe. And like, I know like a lot of people are, yes, I would even say there's some kind of hypnosis going on right now at this point. That's what I think is going on. You might have caught me back in 2016. I probably would have said cognitive dissonance, but based on how a lot of this has turned out, and we've seen this kind of escalate over the past, however many years. Shoot, we're talking about like 9 years at this point. I think there's a strange kind of hypnosis going on. That's just me. What do you think? What do you think, man?
It's beyond hypnosis.
It's beyond. It is like almost. It's almost we have like a master Kabbalist in office right now, or something
it's
like that.
Yeah, hypnosis, sure, but no, it is a computer virus for the human brain in a very real sense. Like, these people, they have a physical condition that is making it easier for them to be influenced and controlled. And on top of that, they are using mind control techniques that have been proven over the course of thousands of years. So yeah, it's like a multi-pronged attack that we're looking at. So you got the effects of social media, which we know that makes us dumber. But I forget what our collective attention span used to be before social media. It was, I mean, I don't remember, but I do know that since social media, the average human has an attention span shorter than 3 seconds, which is less than a goldfish. And
100%.
yeah. So there's that, and that's not even, then they actually had an intentional algorithm that they built into Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram that was spreading mass formation psychosis that set the basis for the pandemic, so that everyone would just go along and not ask questions. And then they got their shot. Well, that shot contained components that attack the brain, and that cause people to become more fearful. And so they respond out of fear. And so if you're running a fear campaign to control your country and your world, and you have people who are susceptible to give into their fear, well, then it becomes easy. All you got to do is give them someone to hate, and then give them, every time you want them to do something, just give them something about that person to hate, and they will do it for you.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, that's the thing too, man. A lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not generalizing, but a lot of people, they almost want their fear handed to them in a handbasket. That's kind of the term I've like coined on that, because dude, you look at all of these alternative media people at this point in time. I'm talking about the ones who are like, and I'm gonna call out names at this point because I don't care, because like I look at my YouTube and I still actually follow some of them on my personal YouTube, at least from like years ago. But you got Jason A. He's a big YouTuber guy, very much on the Christian side, but everything's fear mongering. Every title, this just happened. Watch this before it's too late. They're coming for, and I consistently see this, dude, throughout the entire alternative media and the truther community and things like that. These videos get the most views. Okay, these videos always get the most views, and it's like, and then you have people. I'm not the only person telling people not to be afraid. I can think of about like 5-6 others off the top of my head that are podcasters saying the same thing as me. We get crickets. It's like people almost want to be afraid. They want their fear validated in a very strange subconscious way. And it's like, it's to me, it's like, it almost kind of boggles my mind. It's like, because, you look at fear, fear is a dark polarity. I mean, fear is the dark polarity of love. Like, like it is like, it's a powerful manifester too, on top of that.
It is. But overcoming fear requires courage, and that's work.
Yep, that's work. And accountability. And accountability.
Yes. And thoughtfulness. You usually have to think, and just having someone confirm your fear for you, well, that doesn't require a whole lot of thinking, and it definitely doesn't require any courage.
It doesn't, man. And that's why, like, that's my biggest, as much as I love our conscious collective, man, and I will be by their side till the very end of this thing, until I leave this green realm, world of forms, planet, whatever the fuck it is at this point. And I will always have their back. But man, guys, we got to stop with that, dude. Like, it really is. It's like, especially I even see some people who are on their spiritual evolution still getting roped into it, man. And that's why I joke, like, this collective wants their fear handed to them in a handbasket. They want it dolled up. They want to like clutch it, because it's like, they're like, no, you're telling me I can't be afraid. Like, you're telling me I shouldn't be afraid. Like, no, this handbasket's pretty. And it's like, and that's kind of like where it gets at. But, let's bring up the conspiracies real quick. I got a couple of different ones for this. So I actually have an NIH study on conspiracies we're going to take a look at real quick. So we have first the Google search and the AI overview. So they don't really give a whole statistical thing, but we do have the NIH study here. We'll kind of slightly grasp over it real quick. Of course, guys, I will include all of these links in the description of the YouTube, this link at least, not the Google searches, in the description of the YouTube and Rumble videos. But nonetheless, the public is convinced that beliefs in conspiracy theories are increasing, and many scholars, journalists, and policymakers agree. Given the association between conspiracy theories and many normative tendencies, lawmakers have called for policies to address these increases. I wonder why. No coincidence there, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, but we addressed this evidentiary gap. Study one investigates the change in the proportion of Americans believing 46 conspiracy theories. So there are 46 conspiracy theories, at least at this point in time, that Americans
Is that all?
have some kind of belief in. Like they have some kind of opinion, things like that, which isn't bad. Like, you know, like 46 is a big number when it comes to that. But nonetheless, we have, according to this NIH study, it says 73% of Americans believe that conspiracy theories are currently out of control. In a little bit of a ways, in some ways, I think there are some junk conspiracies out there. I'm not going to lie. I think there are some. I'm not saying all of them are, but there definitely are some junk ones I feel that are meant to distract us.
Well, I feel like some of the celebrity conspiracy theories get out of hand. I mean, some of them are definitely true, but I feel like a lot more of them are like complete BS than people on the conspiracy theory side are going to be willing to accept.
I agree with you on that, man. There's certain ones, like, don't get me wrong, like so there's this guy, actually Chris Matthew, the head of Forbidden Knowledge Network. This is pure ridiculousness, and we can't tell if he's serious. My friend Ryder Lee, who's also on Forbidden Knowledge Network, he thinks he's being serious. But if any of you guys have not seen Fittest Flat Earther on Instagram, I highly suggest you check him out if you want to laugh. He verbatim makes serious videos of like saying that these celebrities play each other, and that's the conspiracy behind it. I mean, dude, and it's like he does like these like side by sides and like these comparisons, and he like tries really, and like I said, I think he's fucking joking, and so does my friend Chris. We think he's joking. Our friend Ryder thinks he's being serious though. But nonetheless, I'm with you on that, man. I think some of the celebrity stuff can get a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. All right, so then we have here, so let's take this out. So we have at least 59% of people agree that are more likely, 59% of people agree that more people are likely to believe in conspiracy theories than combined to 25 years ago. So, and as far as we have beliefs in conspiracy theories, conspiracy beliefs about which groups are conspiring. So, we have the number of groups Americans believe are conspiring has increased over time as well. So it's looking like, at least from a statistical standpoint, I'm going to go ahead. We have a graph here. So we have the Freemasons, we have the Republicans, we have the government itself in general. I like how pretty like intense they are in this. They got unions. I don't know how unions made it into this, but I've never heard that. But
I have. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah,
I need to dive into that. Yeah, no, we're gonna need to dive into that, dude. I need to hear that one.
Not a lot, but
yeah, foreign governments, Freemasons, international organizations, communist corporations, Democrats. It's let's see if the list continues. Nope, that's about it. But nonetheless,
go ahead. I was going to say Freemasons would be at the top of my list in America, so it's kind of funny that they have the lowest numbers there. But I guess not completely unexpected.
It's funny Republicans are number one.
Well, and it's funny because you ever been around a lot of Republicans? Like a lot of them are Freemasons.
100%.
Well, not 100% of them, but 100%. A lot of them are. Yeah,
100%. A lot of them are. No, I completely agree with you, man. And well, that's the thing too. Like I'll tell you what. In my line of work, there's quite a few. In fact, because I thought it was interesting.
I bet so, yeah.
the Union Hall over here in Denver, Colorado, they have some Masonic symbolism all over that shit. It is. We've seen it. And no, dude, but that's interesting, man. So basically, we can kind of we can deduct that. I would at least say at this point, I'm going to say around 40 to 50% of Americans do believe in some kind of conspiracy. The 46 popular ones, of course, we know about Kennedy, we know about Operation Northwoods, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, freaking Watergate. What else? Freaking the Trade Center bus bombing in '93. Like a lot of these different. I mean, even leading up to Waco, 9/11. We continuously go on when it comes to that, but we can safely assume at this point that at least 40 to 50% of Americans believe in some kind of conspiracy theory at this point in time. So that's pretty interesting. But nonetheless, I mean, so as far as collective trauma goes, I'm going to give, at least in my opinion, on the scale of 1 being the least collective trauma from releasing everything and letting it all hang out, to 10 being the worst collective trauma you could possibly, like, we're talking War of the Worlds back in the 20s when people were jumping out of their windows because they thought Martians were invading the planet. I'm going to go ahead and say a 5. I'm going to go ahead and say a 5 at this point in time. And that's kind of my opinion on it. I think there would definitely be some collective trauma. However, the one thing about humans, we're very resilient. We can adapt, to great change if necessary. And we've always made it work. I mean, you look even if we're going through, the normal, typical narrative of human history, humans have undergone some pretty wicked changes. You know what I mean? Or like real wicked changes, man. I mean, shoot, dude, we went from in the Dark Ages supposedly getting slaughtered, at the even mention of heresy, to overcoming and coming into almost like a golden age of like enlightenment, alchemy. The esoteric concepts came back again, even in those times. So what's your rating on the collective trauma scale, man? What are your thoughts after looking at all these statistics?
I think it'll be different places. Like,
I would agree.
Here in Florida, I don't think it'd be a big deal at all. Most of the people I meet here in Florida are very awakened. In North and South Carolina, where I came from, I think it would be, I don't know, The Walking Dead. I mean, it would be bad. Because for one thing, there's a ton of corruption in those states. South Carolina.
100%. 100%, dude. No, I'm with you, man. I think here in the Denver, area, I think we would be okay. Minus Denver and Boulder. When you look at the greater scope of Colorado, this is a very spiritual place. There's a lot of very spiritual people out here. There's a lot of awakened people out here too. And I think Colorado, don't get me wrong, I think the whole Bible Belt is done for. If it were all to get hung out to dry.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's one of the reasons I had to leave, because I do feel like that area may experience some hardship. They already have. I'm not saying that is not me saying this is something that they brought on themselves or that God judged them or they deserved. And it's just our outer world is a reflection of our inner selves. So.
Oh, 100%, man. I think I'm in agreement with you, my friend. I do think that it would vary from area to area. I mean, you're looking at places like especially like Mount Shasta, California, which is, yes, it's in California. To my heart. Yeah, it's in California.
Well, that's also where what's beneath Mount Shasta, right? That's where Telos is.
Mm-hmm. There is definitely something there, dude. I am convinced. I'm convinced there's something there. I've heard so many people, that have had experiences there. I actually worked alongside a guy. He told me his experience. He said this freaking guy walked up to him. He was very, very tall. Started telling him his life story, new things about him that people shouldn't know. And now he's kind of like he's still in contact with this guy. This guy lives on Mount Shasta, won't tell him where, but lives there. And I'm like, I think you have a friend in a high place. I'm just going to put
Yeah,
it that
I love
way.
that. So I work with the Ascended Masters quite a bit, and I've read a lot of the books and teachings that were written at Mount Shasta in the 30s. The I Am Discourses. It's an amazing book. I recommend that book to everyone. And if you're like me and it's hard to sit down and read a book, there's an audiobook read by Brian Scott. That's actually how I have consumed it the most, just listening to it. And in the summer, when I was at my lowest point, I just started listening. I started playing it on loop over and over, and it like taught me exactly how I needed to be when I needed to be it. But the way that Godfrey Ray King, who wrote that book, the way that came about is he was on like some kind of nature walk at Mount Shasta, and he's out in the woods, and he in his book he says Saint Germain just approached him and started talking to him, and and honestly, it reads when you're reading the book and you're imagining what it's like. I mean, to me, it reads just like if someone from today were to tell a story about encountering an extraterrestrial. I mean, it's very, very much similar to it.
Oh, 100%, dude. There's I'm convinced too that, we have these points, especially in mountain ranges, because I've had some experiences out here in the Rockies myself. But the mountain ranges, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the limestone, all of the conductive materials that exist here in these mountain ranges too, that potentially with given these right conditions, open this gateway to these different frequencies, man. I mean, even out here, we have Mountain of the Holy Cross and the Holy Cross Wilderness in Vail. And if you guys have not read the Missing 411 book, I highly recommend you read them. They're very interesting. They're about all the disappearances in national parks and all of the weird things that happen in national parks. But in this particular occasion, this guy, he was hiking the mountain, the same mountain I hiked on, and he disappeared through a fog, and he walked into this it was not Colorado. He said it looked like he was in this tropical almost climate. There was a very lush forests and vegetations, and he was greeted by these little people, and these little people wanted him to drink this beer they had, but there was this voice telling him, don't drink the beer, you'll get stuck here. And freaking, so he ended up running, dude. He ran through the fog, and then the fog brought him out to his car. It didn't even bring him back to where it was on the trail where he encountered the fog. The fog brought him out right to where his car was. I think he had a guide or something that day, like, dude, let's get you out of here, bro. Like, no, you walked into a bad situation. We're gonna drop you off at your car and we're gonna leave you there. But I went there and I had some interesting things I heard. Mind you, you're in the middle of wilderness, man. There's no homes for miles. The trail we were on wasn't heavily populated either. And then, we're walking by this river and we hear this metal chiming noise. And like, it sounded like these very ethereal wind chimes, dude. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, where is that coming from? And like, at first my wife was all like, well, maybe somebody, used it to mark their weed grow. And I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb, because then every time the wind blows, people are going to find your weed. Like, like, why would you use chimes to mark where your weed's at? And I was like, and we couldn't explain it. We couldn't explain it. Like, it was very strange. We'll definitely do a show on that experience another time too. But nonetheless, man, let's hop into our next topic. Now, this next topic is a very interesting one because there's not a whole lot of what I would say concrete evidence on their existence, but based on the actions that we see kind of happening on the world stage, we know that there could be something very interesting at play. So let's kind of break down the white hats. Let's break down the concept of these white hats. I do have an article I am going to bring up that has two depictions of it. They have two different definitions. So the original, I guess you could say, white hats. White hats are government officials and ethical hackers. Which I mean, we're talking government officials here. So yes, I do think this could have a certain play in what we're talking about. White hats are government officials and ethical hackers who help protect information systems from cyber criminals. I think there's a little bit more to it than that. I don't think that's all that is. But we have white hats are government and military officials who support former President Donald Trump and Q. Don't get me started on Q, but we're probably going to dive into it.
Oh, we could do a whole episode on Q. I can talk about Q in ways that no one else can, and so yeah, sometime.
I want to pull up that skeleton meme where it's like the skeletons. I did it for the Kennedy papers, where the skeleton's sitting on the desk, and I'm going to be like, Q people still trusting the plan. However many years later, and it's like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a thing, but I think people who are looking at it, I'm not saying you're one of those people, but I think people who are looking at it from that angle, and I'm talking also about the Q people who are always like posting, Q, what is it, Q comms or whatever,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not necessarily okay. So Q is a consciousness. Q is Christ consciousness. So the person who was making those posts, they were trying to communicate something timeless, but people took that message and they thought that it was meant for that time. And yeah, it was meant to be delivered, but it's not necessarily. Some of the things that we're talking about haven't happened yet, even though they are talked about in present tense, because time is cyclical. So just like prophets have done many times before, Q's goal was to lay out a series of events, a series of patterns, and then let people connect the dots. And whether the conclusions that we've drawn from that have been accurate or not, I mean, no, sometimes. But if you look at things playing out right now on the world stage, a lot of them do line up with things that Q talked about at different times. So there's something to it. And honestly, really the thing that sold me on whether or not there was something to Q was when I found that song. You know the song, The Voice of Q?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, listen to that song. Let's communicate. Interplanetary hyperspace. Open up your mind. Q will send you answers throughout time. Time travel. And it gets deeper than that, okay? Because I believe Q, when it comes to the human element, is probably a derivative of the Knights Templar. Now, some people, you say Knights Templar, they're like, oh, the bad guys. I don't think the Knights Templars are bad. Maybe some of them, just like everything, there's probably good and bad. But, there's definitely an element of the Knights Templar who took their oath to protect the line of Christ very seriously. And that's where Q came from, in my opinion.
Well, dude, what's really interesting about now that you've explained it to me that way? I'm going to bring something up I want to show you. And this is something I have discovered. For those of you who have been with me a while and have seen my pre-Nicene rabbit hole shows, I've talked about this exact thing I'm about to bring up. So there's actually a Gospel of Q.
Yes, right? Sir. Yes, sir.
So we have the Lost Gospel of Q, the original sayings of Jesus. Yes. Some people call it the Q source. All right. And so this... I know this is one of actually the earliest. So this is supposedly one of the earliest. This was written from word of mouth by hand directly from Jesus. supposedly, according
Yes.
to the source material. So what you said about Q being Christ consciousness, and that immediately like popped up in my head. I'm like, okay, this is a perspective on it that I haven't heard before. And now that he has said this to me, my wheels started turning, and here we go. We have the Q source, and then we have the Mark source when it comes to a lot of the biblical texts. When it comes to Jesus Christ. So the fact that there is a gospel of Q, and this ties into Christ, and you are saying that Q is Christ consciousness and that somebody was channeling it, that's very interesting, man. And like that, I remember when I first looked at this gospel, I was like, why is it called Q? Because immediately in my mind, I was like, QAnon, like it's kind of uncanny. Like, I didn't correlate the two at first, but now that you've said that, man, there definitely very well could be some kind of correlation.
Well, I'm convinced that there is. Absolutely.
Well, that's interesting to me, man. I mean, there probably is. And dude, let me tell you what, it is not behind humanity, excuse me, to receive this kind of insight and to fuck it up. It is definitely not.
Yeah.
It's not beyond humanity to receive this kind of stuff and then immediately take it, twist it, and use it for whatever they want to. So maybe I was being a little bit too hard on Q. I get it, but at the same time,
Well,
it's
some of
very
them can be really annoying. Okay, like I get it. I've had some run-ins with several obnoxious QAnons myself, and I totally get it.
I know, man. And it's like, well, the number one thing that I just like to relay to people is like, a lot of people, and you're definitely not one. I love how open you are, bro. And I love how, you don't act like you got everything figured out. A lot of the QAnon people do act like they have everything figured out, and I'm like, man, like, and I said, when I say I woke up in 2008, it's not a flex, because I'm telling you, even after fucking 17 years, I still don't have it all fucking figured out, bro. Like, I don't. Like, it is ever morphing, it is ever changing. I didn't even expect them, to take Elon and Trump and put them in their freaking side and have them start to freaking kind of, unwind some things, as far as like, yes, I mean, there's certain things that I guess you could say Trump said that he was going to do, he did. But look at the fucking Epstein files that we're even dealing with right now, dude. I got the fucking binder. It's all the same shit that was released fucking 5-6 years ago. And freaking, there's like 2 new pieces of paper in it. But like, yeah.
Well, I mean, they said that was because of a rogue FBI office, and they dealt with it. So we'll see. They don't have very long to come through at this point. But
we'll definitely have to see, man. And like, and so even what was even crazier, I noticed too about this binder I got, when the flight logs and all of that, because that's what's in this binder, when the flight logs got released, what was it, like 5-6 years ago at this point, and they were getting passed around in this binder, that was just kind of weird to me too, how Trump called select people in alternative media to come and receive the binder. That was just weird to me. I was like, why don't you just release the binder? Why are you doing it this way? But they redacted things that weren't redacted before. And that is something else I noticed in it too.
Well, I think you're still seeing the movie play out, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the end goal is there, but it's definitely like they're trying to set up some kind of dramatic effect. But I don't know.
That could be it too.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm 100% with you. Like, that's the thing too, man. Like, I'm always subject to changing, man. And like, I'm always subject to growing and things like that. And yeah, it definitely is like the movie playing out. Is like the suspense almost. It's like, when you're watching like one of those TV shows, and it's like it leaves you like, it's like it leaves you on the cliffhanger, and it's like, all right, we're leaving you here next week where we will get back to it. And it very well could be the movie playing out, man. And but nonetheless, like, I am not knacking on anything going on right now. I would love to be complete. I mean, I am completely open to all of this being a good thing. I am completely open to us being on a positive timeline. Like, I think we're on a positive timeline regardless of all of that going on at this point in time.
That's good.
It is. Like, no, me, dude. I'm not black pilled. I'm not doom and gloom. I'm not freaking. Yeah. I'm not out there labeling my videos. Watch this before it's too late. Okay. You need to watch this before it's too late. And,
right.
And all that. But like, no, I'm completely open to this being, a good thing. Like me, like, it's my thing is this, like, it's like, I have to observe without attachment. I do, like, and that's just how I roll. And like, sometimes my opinions fluctuate, but nonetheless, let's get down to the nitty gritty before we sign off tonight. Do you think at this point, my friend, that the white hats are doing this out of the goodness of the collective, or do you think there is something else at play with all of this?
Well, yes. I mean, I think that the white hats are human, and or as human as any of us are, because pretty much everything that incarnates here is human, but also not human. So,
exactly.
But so I think that, I mean, I can't speak for every one of them, but I think that for the most part, they at least, want to make the world a better place. But, we're also talking in a lot of cases about people who have always been in circles of power, and probably they don't know how to let go of that. And, there's probably a lot of fear in letting go of that power, which they're going to have to do eventually, because just the world is changing. And, this is coming from the highest authority. The world is changing. The authority figures on this world are going to change. And, some people aren't going to like that.
Oh, definitely, man. I would agree with you, man. I think, like I said, it's not very black and white. I mean, I do think, there's even theories out there that people think. So let's talk about the families for a second, the elite families and all that. There's individuals out there who think there's even rebel factions of them who are actually trying to help us, who are trying to.
Oh, yeah.
I do think something like that is going on. I do think there is it was very subtle at first. But the one thing I notice is the overt ridiculousness of certain things that are kind of coming to the surface right now. Yeah. I mean, dude, look at the fucking Bruv party with fucking Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, the Bruv party. Like they're trying, like, dude, I think I think what we're having to, one of my friends put it a really good way. We have a lot of actors who are tired of acting at this point. Yes. They're like, dude, like, look, we're showing you this is ridiculous. We're showing you this is batshit crazy. We're showing you this is off the wall. You guys need to stop believing this stuff. Like, so
yeah.
I definitely agree with you. I do think we have there's something that is helping us. I do agree with you there for sure. And I think they're trying to do it in a way that is, it's subtle. It's starting to become less subtle, but it did begin as subtle.
Yeah, I mean, if you want my honest opinion, I believe honestly, and I've kind of received this as like a download before, among, let's say, the collective good and bad or dark forces, there pretty much is a universal agreement that the way things have been just can't continue, that humanity does need to awaken. But it's almost like they don't know how to do it. It's like we would all love for humanity to awaken. But yeah, and that's not everybody, but there is, like a lot of what used to be considered the darkness has, you know, been transmuted. A lot of you know, say beings that maybe at one time would have been seen as enemies, you know, have, you know, maybe they had something else that was causing them to do that, which has been solved. I mean, that's really, you know, that sorry to go on so many rabbit trails, but that, you know, when you become higher consciousness and existing in the universe, you know, you have to start to look at, if somebody is hurting you, like maybe there's a reason that they're doing it, and maybe if you help them or remove whatever is the source of their pain, then they'll leave you alone, you know. So
Definitely.
so yeah, we don't know how to awaken you. The Arcturians, they told me once that they thought, you know, maybe 80% of humanity could not awaken right now, like in their current incarnation. This like this was something that actually happened. Like I was taken on board their ship, and this was like maybe 2 years ago, and they put me on like this device, and it was like a computer on their ship that could create this, like a simulation of this. And there were people in there, and I was supposed to try to reach them and see if I could help them awaken or something. And we couldn't, because we found that their mind control programming was so strong that, like, if a being of light came to them and tried to help them, like, they were programmed to see that person as an enemy, and they would only get more and more hostile no matter what you did. So you had to just kind of leave them to their own devices. And yeah.
I think, dude, it's interesting, man. Like it is, and like you know, even kind of touching back on the collective trauma aspect of it. Yeah, I made the joke about the Bible Belt and all that, but no, there's going to be those individuals, man. Like, and yes, there's going to be some people who just don't awaken, 100%, man. And there's people who are just not ready for it. It might not be their soul's mission in this life. They might be here to learn a certain lesson, and kind of at that point, then, I mean, one of the things I think, you know, we looked at a lot of the, you know, and I'm just speculating here, guys, we looked at a lot of the vaccine deaths that happened, you know, when it came to COVID. And I don't really care what YouTube has to say about this. YouTube, you can go screw yourself. But anyway, it's but you look at that, man, it makes me think, like, was this a way that these souls, because, you know, plausible deniability is everything here when it comes to the spiritual. I mean, maybe that was a way that these souls could get taken off of here in a very subtle way. The ones that weren't ready, you know, maybe to potentially go forward and evolve. I don't know. It's a theory that's floated around.
I mean, I could tell you something very dark that I saw when it comes.
Let me hear it, man. Let me hear it.
So when I went on my journey in July, you know, I experienced many different planes of reality, including a couple different versions of hell. One of them, the lowest level of hell, was like this quantum supercomputer. And when they steal someone's soul, that's where they send it. And from there, they kind of like farm souls out. It's kind of like, you know, human trafficking. And yeah, this is a real place. And so I kind of feel like that's what happens to people that they killed with the vax. But not to be all dark and doom and gloom, but
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it's there's a Project Jedi project from the Department of Defense. They were working on that right at the end of the first Trump administration. The reason I know about it is because they moved it from Amazon to Microsoft right as I was leaving, and my boss was real excited about it. And yeah, And I have since, I there was a lot of shadiness going on there at the time, but I've since learned that Amazon was working on a project to turn the human body into a walking data center. And I'm pretty sure that was Project Jedi, because I mean, think about it. Like they're turning,
definitely.
yeah. So, and yeah, so I feel like a lot of these symptoms, people have the 5G computer network that they say is in some of the people that had the vax. I think that's Project Jedi. And yeah, I think that they can kind of pull your consciousness out and do whatever they can do with it.
I agree with you on that, because you want to know why? Because when I had Emily Moyer on the show back a few weeks ago, she was talking about how they look for individuals with high conductivity, right? Like there are certain humans here that are super conductive, that have the ability to, who basically, the super conductive people have a lot of energy. They're not very ill. They don't really get sick. And compared to people who are not very conductive, who might have a lot of illness and stuff, but they look for these individuals and they set up like these arrangements with these individuals on the back end to potentially use them, the people themselves, as a form of technology. So like that lines up with what you're saying about like turning people into like this walking data farm, or this walking data thing. It completely syncs up with what you're saying. So no, this is dude. I mean, thanks for giving me that little bit of insight, man. I do believe there is soul farming here. I do believe there is definitely something along those lines. I mean, I think potentially that a lot of people could, even while they're alive, almost be soul farmed by almost getting
yes, absolutely.
Getting like trapped in narratives and stuff, man. But nonetheless, man, dude, we're gonna sign off for the night. If you can hang out for a couple minutes, basically what I'm gonna say is this: it's not as black and white as it seems. Again, here we go. We got this question: Are we in a controlled awakening? And I do think in aspects of it is, for sure. I mean,
I believe so.
Yeah, definitely, man. But like, it's not as black and white as it seems.
Yeah.
One thing I think maybe I would like to see is maybe more people like you and I coming forward and potentially asking for that kind of information, maybe petitioning for it. I'm not sure how that would go. I mean, I know the Freedom of Information Act, is a thing, but I think at this point, I would say about more people than we realize are ready to hear this kind of stuff. As far as the people who are not ready, maybe eventually they will come around to it. Maybe this is why it is being done in such a slow way, because like you said, man, like when you were on the ship, you tried reaching out to this person and their mind control was so intense that even if you appeared as this angelic being in front of them to deliver this kind of message, they would look at you like you're an enemy. They would look at you. So that is, a realistic thing that we do see when it comes to this. All in all, man, like I said, I'm giving it all a 5 out of 10 at this point in time. Like I learned a lot from you tonight, man, and freaking, you definitely changed my perspective on a couple things. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I always. And, I think what I would like to see is the white hats have more collaboration with the people who are ready, to understand this.
That's been a gripe of mine since the beginning, frankly. So I'm like, hey, I've got some useful skills here. You guys should be calling me up. What's your problem? But
well, exactly, dude. It's like, hit me up, man. Like, bro, like, dude, like, I mean, you want me to drip feed it? I'll drip feed it, but like, at least, like, I'll do it in a way that's like not, I don't know, like as I guess as slow and apocalypse when as it is right now. But
yeah.
You know, I would love to see them collaborate with more of the people who are in the know, because ultimately it does come down to us. You know what I mean? It comes down to us. We're the ones going through this. We're the ones experiencing this. Like, you know, we're the ones who are on the back end doing all of this research, doing the work, doing podcasts, creating videos like you are, man, and things like that. We're
You know,
we're the front lines.
you know, I did. I am absolutely convinced that this really happened. I did once receive a psychic communication from Donald Trump. This is like
Dude,
maybe a year and a half ago. I was deep in meditation, and I was like, I was in touch with like my spirit guides and stuff, and he just kind of showed up, and he's like, "Your contributions are acknowledged and appreciated." And that was it.
dude.
Like, that's the most Trump thing ever, right? Like, so I'm convinced that it really happened.
Listen here, David. You had to crack a couple of eggs to make an omelet, and Melania liked the omelet. Something like. But then even with, like, you know, dude, I'm not down, dude. I'm telling you, it's the one thing I do feel, and we'll end it off with this. I feel like people like you and I are definitely known about. I feel like people like you and I are definitely observed to some kind of degree. Oh, 100%. I've had my own experiences, you know, that have led me to point towards that. And I'll just leave it off at this. White hats, you know, if you're really there, like, we would like to work with you. Like, stop. I mean, to me, it seems like you're kind of like holding all of this to yourselves. There's many willing people who would be willing to work with you. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But nonetheless, thank you so much again, my friend David the Lion, for coming on BG Cast again.
Thank you, Steven. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Guys, again, I have all of the Lions links in the YouTube and the Rumble descriptions. I have his X page. I have his link tree. Check out his game, the Mug Lump. If you are into phone games, I have it in my description down there. Help support our friend here. He is also a fellow content creator himself. Give his videos a listen and a watch. He is very empowering and very positive and very motivational, man.
I release one new short video every Sunday, and I'm going to be expanding it to more content. But every Sunday, a new video.
Hell yeah, man. Other than that, guys, next week I will be back with Prophet. He is one of Urban's friends. Tim, you're very welcome, man. You have yourself a good night. We're going to be breaking down some of the occult weirdness that's going on behind the scenes right now. So I look forward to sitting down with Prophet and having a show with him. But nonetheless, guys, thank you so much for joining me again for another BG Cast Wednesday Live podcast. I will be back next week. And guys, if you did like what you heard tonight, please like, subscribe, share. Again, if you're going to be in the Denver area, if you are in the Denver area and you would like to come meet me and you would like to see my live talk at Liberty on the Rocks, let me know. My socials are all BG Cast. You know the symbol. You can't miss me. And then, guys, thank you again for all joining us here tonight. Thanks for all the love from the chat and all the participation. It is much appreciated. You guys take care and have yourselves a good one. I will see you all.